You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again to commence our broadcast week here. An action-packed broadcast week here on the old Options Insider Radio Network. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the aforementioned network. I will be your host, your guide, your spirit animal for this journey for the week through the world of options. Of course, a lot of great stuff coming at you, usually a couple of shows a week. This week, we've got extra coming at you. Advisors Option is on the docket this week, as well as another double dose of Options Bootcamp. Man, you guys are getting a ton of it. That's all for the pro folks are the ones who are going to get the double dose of Bootcamp. The rest of you will have to be scattered out on the on-demand in the coming weeks. I know Dan's travel schedule is crazy. And we'll have all sorts of fun, so it means a lot more Options Bootcamp. I do believe we're actually getting another double OPR this week as well, a live huddle with Brian, so all you pro folks will hear that live as well. All the on-demand folks, got to wait till when it hits the network. Of course, if you want to go pro and join for all that fun throughout the week, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, or for you cool kids /secret club. Got a great pro Q&A coming up. The one and only Mr. Simon Ho, the Spikes father and the BitVol father. I saw him in person finally for the first time in a couple of years, twice in the span of a week, once here in Chicago, and then a few days later down in San Antonio at the OIC conference. He'll be joining us tomorrow to take on all comers with your questions on all things vol. Could be spikes and index vol, could be crypto vol, a whole bunch of fun stuff. So get those questions in now. That's going to be a fun session tomorrow. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more about that. And we got to get on into our first segment. You know, it's the start of our week. We have to kick off the week the way we want to do, which is, can you guess that 80s wrestler via his or her theme music? And, you know, we've kind of done a lot of the big names, the titans, if you will, of the 80s wrestling. We've even gone like a notch below. Maybe we're going to go to that third tier today. This is a known guy. You'll know him once we talk about him. But you may be scratching your head a little bit. Even though his music, if you can kind of pick up what the music's putting down, I think you'll be able to pick this one. This guy was a heel, and I don't know how much more I could say without really giving it away. Let me play the music, because the clue I want to give probably just gives it away. But he was a heel, kind of like a mid-tier heel. And let's just say that Mr. Shawn Michaels, the sexy boy, wasn't the only one that maybe the ladies liked. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Can you name that 80s wrestler?
Wrestling Federation. For over 50 years, the revolutionary force in sports entertainment.
think you get the gist of it. You picking up what they're putting down there? A little bit of sexiness oozing in on there. All right. I have a feeling my cohorts will be able to guess this one. When I say 3, 2, 1, go, they will buzz in and see if they can name that 80s sexy bad guy wrestler. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Sing.
Was that you, Uncle Mike? I think it was.
Of course.
All right. I think that was you. All right. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. A, welcome to the program. And B, can you name that little bit of 80s bad boy sexitude, sir?
A, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. And B, Ravishing Rick Rude.
I had a feeling. I think you've guessed him before for some of our other names. I had a feeling you'd be down for it when we finally played him. What are your enduring memories of the Ravishing one, sir?
The one that I can think of is that he was actually a guest on Regis and Kathy Lee one time. Him and Bobby the Brain Heenan went on there. And so Frank Gifford, her husband, was away or was out of town at the time doing a game. And she said that on TV. And so just quite the comedy of watching Rick Rude chase Kathy Lee around the set. And she seemed like she liked Rick Rude, but she was being loyal to her husband. So that's one of that's the first memory I have of him. And then the other ones, of course, is where they'd get someone from the audience to come out. He'd make out with the woman, and then she'd just melt in his arms. So it was an interesting gimmick that Rick Rude had. That's for sure.
Kathy Lee and Frank Gifford. Wow, you're going deep with that. We know that loyalty wasn't returned, shall we say, the other way. Who knows what Frank was doing while Kathy was being chased around by Ravishing Rick Rude. By the way, can I just say, only in like the late 70s into the early mid 80s would a guy with a permed mullet and a thick, super thick Magnum / Burt Reynolds style stash be considered like the epitome, the apex of sex appeal. But that's the way it was back then. We now turn to, once again, he is back now in the Southern Volatility Mecca. I am pleased to say I did see him in person. I can confirm, proof of life, listeners. He does live. He does exist. He is the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the program. A, B, how did your event go? And then C, what are your thoughts on the Ravishing one, sir?
Ravishing Rick Rude. He was a good wrestler, and died early. But man, that guy definitely had to get a thing going on the mid card. Never could make the jump to the top.
Yeah, he never broke through to like top heel status.
No, he didn't. But he was always a amazing mid card wrestler. So always a big fan. So yeah, good dude. I liked his finisher. I thought he was a pretty great guy. So I'm on board.
I don't even remember, what was his finisher? Something ravishing, I'm assuming.
No, didn't he do like an over the shoulder suplex kind of thing?
Oh, maybe
like a back suplex.
I figured he'd like plant a kiss on you and then put you down or something.
yeah. That was a back suplex.
That would have been in keeping. And I went to your event. I'm pleased to say there were people live there. It was a fun deal. It was a good time. How did your event go last week, sir?
Oh, it went great. And people really enjoyed getting to listen in volatility views and having that conversation. It was nice having kind of you there to live. It really, what we do here over Skype is great, but you really can't beat being in person to record some of these because you just get really good give and take.
Yeah, it was fun. That was my first show with an audience again in at least 2 years. So that was kind of fun, live audience, obviously. So that was kind of fun to stretch those muscles again. We have the audio. We already put it up for Vol Views last week, listener. We kind of just cut it straight in from the show. If you want to see how the sausage is made, we do actually have the video too. So maybe we'll post that up to the old YouTube so you could see behind the scenes of myself and the greasiest of meatballs and the Rock Lobster. He was there too. So all three of us in a room together. That was kind of fun. So maybe we'll post that video so you guys can see for yourselves how the sausage is made behind the scenes as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the block of trading that we call around here the trading block appropriately enough. And it's another one of those kind of weird days. We saw it last week, listeners, of course, on Friday when we were recording the Ball View show. It seemed like we were going to be in firm sell-off territory. Then we kind of rebounded a bit towards the end of the session. Today, kicked off the session, had a pretty decent kind of a rally in most of the major indices. Dow seemed like it was leading the way. The other indices seemed to catch up. Now it seems like maybe that rally is mitigating a little bit again. It's still pretty firm. S&P up 1.5%. NASDAQ up about 1%. The Dow up nearly 2%. So still the Dow leading the charge to the upside. That means all this green to kick off the week means vol indices mostly down from where they were on last Thursday's show. VIX, when we kicked off the show, a little bit shy of the 29 handle, about 28.75. That puts it down about 2 points from where it was last show. VVIX at about a 105. That puts it down 3 points from last show. So again, not huge moves here, just some evolution. VXX, so who knows what that product is anymore. Coming down a bit, down about 1.25 points to about a 25 when we kicked off the show. UVXY 15 3/4, down about 1.25 points as well from Thursday's show. SVIX, so our inverse product. We were kind of joking about how low can that go on vol views, and if it gets down to the sub 2 range, might be worth the flyer. Of course, if it gets down that level, I also joke maybe you want to buy like a half strike put with it, because chances are if it gets down that low, it could maybe follow XIV all the way down to 0. We shall see. But again, that's an interesting question. How low can SVIX get in this area where it seems like VIX might want to pop a bit? We shall see. SVIX 10.5, up a half a point from last show. Speaking of VIX pops, we'll get to that a little bit with our question of the week this week. Should be an interesting one. UVIX, so the 2X levered VIX product, 19.25, down about 2.25 points from last show. And VolQ, aka the at the money vol of the NASDAQ, at about 33. We had Scott Nations in our pro Q&A hot seat last week. Check that out if you missed it. Listen, that was a fun conversation about all things NASDAQ vol and everything else. VolQ down a little over 1.5, about 1.6 points from where it was this time last week. Let's go around the horn. He won. I had a feeling he would get Ravishing Rick Rude. It was right up his alley. Let's go out to Uncle Mike, the winner of our game this week. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what's lighting up your tape in this pretty much Uncle Mike type of day, sir?
Yeah, everything is awesome. It's that easy. No, and looking at this, Friday was an interesting day in that we went into bear market territory for a little bit on the S&P 500, and we didn't close below it, and so we still have yet to get a close in a bear market. Bear market, by definition, being 20% off of an all-time high. So that I thought was very interesting, and just the fact that I forget what time it was, but like at 2:20, 2:30, something like that. All of a sudden, we just rallied right into the close. No one wanted to go home short over the weekend, apparently, and we just had a pretty big rally in the marketplace. For right now, we're up 50 points on the day today with the S&P 500. We are roughly 30 points off the high, so it'll be interesting to see from a daily standpoint if this market's going to hold on the day, because it really hasn't held anything recently. So we'll see.
Past his prologue, we'll be down 3% by the end of the day, right?
Right. So we'll see how this ends up today. But the reasons for optimism is that we did stay above the bear market. Now, the big talk right now in the market itself is that in order for this to be a bear market, we need to have a big shakeout. And we've just had these little down days, and we need to have a big shakeout. We need to have somebody go bankrupt because they're over levered, and we haven't had that yet. So it's for that reason that a lot of people believe that there's more to come. Now, once again, for my buy and hold people, I'm buying and holding. And for my hedged people, we're still hedged. But for the aggressive people, or the people in the aggressive strategy with which I'm in, once again, I just want to emphasize that we're negative on the year. And so because of that, we're in very safe positions, if you will. And so, nothing super safe, but we're still very far out of the money on our put spreads, and so and then just with the other things that we have, it's not going to be very exciting for a while, let's just say. But with that, the thing that I want to emphasize right now is that no, we have not had that other shoe dropping, but we are nearly 20%. We were over 20% off of an all-time high. We've had a 20% pullback, that means, over the course of the last 4.5 months as of Friday. And so because of that, I personally think that's a reason to be a little bit optimistic. Now, understand that I'm not putting my money where my mouth is because of the fact that we are still negative on the year. And I don't care how good of an indicator you have. Trading rules need to trump indicators 100% of the time. And so that's kind of where I'm at with this. Now, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning right now is the fact that as we go higher, we're still holding the VIX in the high 20s. We're not having that VIX sell-off. The other thing that I'm going to be interested to hear Sebastian's opinion on will be a lot of people are saying that in order for us to get the true shakeout, we need to have an X% increase in the VIX, and we haven't had that yet. We've just had this slow downturn, so I'm going to be curious to hear what his opinion is on that. Right now, we have bonds are selling off. We're down a little bit in the bond world right now, so I think that's actually feeling kind of normal. The fact that we are having an up day in the stocks, we're having a down day in bonds, it's starting to feel somewhat normal again instead of both of them just going straight down like they have recently. Silver, we are flat on the day with silver, so we aren't really getting major amount of movement in the commodities. But then there's oil. Oil is actually down a little bit on the day today, but we have natural gas up 5% on the day. So we are getting a little bit of a move there in the commodity land. And then the final indicator that I want to share before I turn it over to Mr. Sebastian is that normally when people who generally aren't market participants start telling you about the market, it means that we're near a top. And I shared last fall that my physical therapist was sharing with me how wonderful Bitcoin was. And it didn't really do so hot since last fall. But today, this one's actually, I say this jokingly, but today I had an indicator. Whenever one of my buy and hold clients calls me, concerned or texts me or emails me or whatever, concerned about the market, that usually means that we're getting close to a bottom. And I had my first text today. And so with that, he's fine. And I'm just saying with your buy and hold stuff, we're just going to ride it out, which I've been telling people forever that 100% of the time the market has come back over the course of the last 100 years. And I told him that. But a reason for optimism, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, I actually had the first bullish indicator of a client calling concerned about the market being down. And I'll leave that with Seabass now.
Uh-oh. So there you go. Uncle Mike, his first contra indicator of the session. Speaking of your pop out there, that bit of capitulation, that's kind of what our question of the week is about right now as well, listeners. Get on over to @options if you haven't already. Just went live a few minutes for a short time. Some like people are already starting to pile into it. We were asking this week, we already asked you recently about your buy-in levels for the SPX and SPY. But many of you are also waiting for that moment. Uncle Mike was kind of just alluding to that vol spike, that whatever that big blowout is, that really, before you dive back into these markets, a lot of you are looking at the VIX to signal that. So we asked you, what level does VIX have to hit to really signal concession out there in these broad markets? The level where you think, okay, S&P has sold off, VIX is popping. That means camel's back has been broken. The markets have conceded. What level is that for you in VIX? Gave you 4 choices, as always. VIX north of 40, VIX north of 50, VIX north of 60, or VIX north of 70. Obviously, you wanted to go more, but you can only do so many on Twitter. And right now, it's interesting. There's actually more than a third, 36.4% of you saying VIX north of 40 is where you have to be, which isn't that far. So that's kind of interesting. I'll reveal the rest of the results in a little bit. Again, it just went live out there. So get out there, @options, make your voice heard if you agree or disagree. Maybe you think it should be higher. Maybe you want to go to 80 or whatever, where it hit back, in the March of 2020 sell-off. Right in, let us know there on the poll. We'll look forward to hearing from you. Let's go out to Mr. Meatball now. Mr. Meatball, sir, what are your thoughts on this crazy market we're kicking off yet again this week, sir?
Yeah, that was a pretty nice bounce. And, the interesting thing is we've seen these key levels hold twice. So we watched 4,000 hit twice and then break on the third try. We did the same thing with 3,900. Now we're at this kind of 3,800 slash, down 20% from the top level, and it has held twice. We almost hit it a little over 2 weeks ago. Then we went through it briefly for a couple hours on Friday. Rapid bounce, And now the question is, okay, are we able to break the highs from a few weeks ago when we got to about 40.70? Or do we just go right back down and break lower and head to that 3,800 level and finally break? And then who knows where we go from there? This seems to be like a pretty strong line in the sand. If that one breaks, then I'm going to be watching very carefully. The thing that I've really been paying attention to and keying on has been the dollar. It's got incredibly strong. It's started to come off a little bit. So while the dollar is falling, that puts us in a position for the market to potentially move higher. I do think we could touch 4,000 before things turn around. The thing to remember is in a bear market, the rips will really cause you, and it will really be more violent than the sell-offs, and that's kind of what we're looking at. And yeah, Mike, it's interesting that you're starting to get those phone calls. That makes sense. Starting to get to those levels, but I gotta say, there's still some stocks here that have very, very high valuations that a lot of people are hanging on to for dear life. A name that has earnings tonight is Zoom, and you look at Zoom and you go, even at $85 a share, $88 a share, is that value? No. 50. Now we're starting to talk. So I'm very interested in whether how things play out over the next couple of days, because I think that's going to set the table for really everything, how we move through the Fed.
Indeed. Let's set that table now with some of the major indices and what's trading out there in the options market right now. Listen, let's see how this kind of crazy upside market is treating us from a volume perspective. And as you might expect, VIX not exactly blowing the doors off. It doesn't tend to respond favorably from a volume perspective on these general market upside days. 259,000 contracts. That's nothing to sneeze at. But it's not, 450, 500,000 like it has been this time of day. In some recent sessions, the ADV has continued to tick up. It's up to 605 right now. Will it hit it today? It doesn't seem like it, but hey, the day is young. SPY doing some numbers, though. SPY closing in on 5 million contracts already, about 4.9 million contracts on the tape in SPY right now. So SPY ain't playing today, listeners. The ADV, 7.4 million contracts out there. The S, similarly robust, not quite as aggressive as SPY. S about 1.25 million. That's decent. We've seen it at about 1.5 million sometimes this time of day right now. Usually anything north of 1 million this time of day is pretty active for the S, even though the ADV has ticked up north of 2 million now, 2.16 million. That's a lot of paper for the S. So we'll see how long it can sustain that. Small caps, IWM at about 288,000. So not doing a lot of paper today, despite the fact that the ADV has continued to go up. It's threatening 900K now, 898,000. IWM has broken 1 million in the ADV a few times recently. So can it hit that again? We shall see. And let's throw the Qs in there as well. Why not? The Qs, 1.7 million contracts right now. The ADV, 3.1 million. Let's go out to the single names, see what's lighting it up out there. And it's kind of another interesting day where the indexes are kind of rocking. The single names, at least on the bottom half of our top 10, not blowing the doors off. Only cost you 184,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That gets you to ChargePoint, the electric vehicle charging stations out there. Their stock is kind of unched off a penny. It had a little bit of a range today, down to about 10.57 and then up as high as 11.17. So I had about a 50-cent range on the day, a little more than that, but I guess that's enough to generate 184,000 contracts for number 10 out there today. I don't see any big news coming out of them unless they have earnings right before the open. I don't think they did, though. So yeah, ChargePoint, number 10. I haven't seen them in the top 10. I don't think ever, even though they have been on our odd block a few times of late. Some weird paper going up out there. Number 9, Microsoft, 209,000 contracts for good old Softy. They're actually up nearly 3%, $7 today, 259, almost 260 out there. So nice little pop for Microsoft today. Number 8, good old Facebook. Actually, sorry, Facebook's above it at number 7. Back before it is Ford. The F of the FB, Ford at 214,000 contracts, up about a quarter, right around 1280 right now. Did they get up over the 13 handle today? They flirted with it. They didn't quite get there. They got to 1295 before giving it up back down to 1276, hovering at about 1280 right now. Good for 214,000 contracts in Ford. Then we add the B on. We go out to Facebook, number 7, right behind it. 245,000 contracts, still below the 200K level, 194, about a half right now, up about 0.5% on the day. Good for 245,000 contracts. Number 6, it's Nvidia. That's actually a little low for Nvidia. Nvidia usually is with AMD is usually around the 4 to 5 range. Today, number 6, 257,000 contracts, off about $1 and change. So not a lot of action out there today. Number 5, we got good old Bank of America, BAC. 262,000 contracts on the tape for number 5. It's up $2 and change, so a little over 6, about 6.25%, trading right around $36 right now. Number 4, pretty much hanging out at its perennial spot now. It's AMD. Yeah, I guess pretty much pick a day, and AMD is probably gonna be close to 4. It's at 93.25, so right now off about 20 cents. So not a huge day for them either, but it's still good enough for number 4, 328,000. My question persists. We see AMD in the top 10 every day, and yet I've never had a person in recent memory write in or ask a question or anything to do with AMD. So if you're trading AMD, I'm curious. Who are you? Hit us up. Let us know. Because clearly it does a lot of paper. Yet I haven't encountered in the wild on our network, at least, many, if any, AMD traders. Number 3, going out to good old Pabst Blue Ribbon, a.k.a. Petrobras, ticker symbol PBR. Trading right around $16 right now, up 63 cents on the day, a little over 4%. So a nice pop for Petrobras, doing 440,000 contracts. Then we jump up to some more respectable numbers. Number 2 is Tesla, 801,000 contracts on the tape. Again, Tesla up about $3.50 or 0.5%, 667 right now. So they are well down from where they were a month ago, off 33% or 330 handles. It was exactly $1,000 a month ago. So, man, Tesla coming under the gun here. And number 1 is the fruit company, good old Apple, 1.25 million contracts on the tape. That's pretty decent volume for them of late. They've been kind of lagging a bit as well. They're popping today up 3%, right around a little over $4, about 4.25, trading right around 141.75. They've also had a little bit of heat over the past month, not quite as aggressive as Tesla. They're not off a third. They're off about 13%, a little over 21 handles over the past month. Good enough today for 1.25 million contracts. Earnings-wise, Mr. Meatball was just talking about Zoom. Zoom is today. We got Best Buy tomorrow, Intuit and Nordstrom's tomorrow. Wednesday is out to Dick's Sporting Goods, so more retail there. Nvidia, one of our frequent offenders in the top 10. There's Snowflake. Remember them? They were hot for a hot minute. They were the big IPO everyone wanted to trade options on for about a week or two. Then it seems like everyone has forgotten them as well. But hey, they're on Wednesday. Maybe you guys are still trading Snowflake. Hit us up. Let us know. Thursday, we got Alibaba, Macy's, Dollar Tree, and Dollar General. So this is also known in the earnings vernacular as Uncle Mike's favorite day. His 2 favorite names popping off on the same day, as well as Costco and Dell and MRVL. Friday, we got Big Lots. What do we got before the bell? We have hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORATS. We got some earnings move results, earnings season, and earnings trades reports. If you haven't checked these out in a while, listeners, get on over to theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey. There is a whole heck of a lot of free data waiting for you there, listeners, including this. Let's look at today. This morning before the bell, we had XPEV. This is the ticker symbol for XPeng, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer. And let's see, they were at 23.25 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 9.5%. And as of this report, they had moved about 7.9%. So a little bit of underperformance from a Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer. Usually those 2 words together are synonymous with volatility. Anything Chinese right now and anything electric vehicle manufacturer. Put those together, usually a recipe for vol. And this one underperforming, which is kind of interesting. Upcoming names, we have the metric ton. Let's do a couple quickly as we got to get into the eye block. We got Best Buy coming up on the 24th, so tomorrow before the bell. 72.25 is where they were trading as of this report. They were pricing in almost exactly $10, $9.99. In the past, they've moved almost $5, $5.01. So they pretty much have doubled their straddle. That's a lot of juice for Best Buy. Again, given what we've seen from retailers of late, is that warranted? It might be. We've seen a lot of vol on the retail front of late. Intuit, 24th after the bell, 367.75 is where they were trading. 30.75 is what they were pricing in. Oh my goodness. In the past, they've moved 10.75. They've added another $20 to their previously shy of $11 straddle. Oh my God, it's 3x. Wow. That's a lot of vol for Intuit. Okay, I need to dig into Intuit after the show. See what's cooking out there. All right, let's keep on rolling. Let's see any others. Dick's Sporting Goods, frequent offender here. 25th before the bell. 77.5 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $9.16. In the past, they've moved $6.11. So nice $3 or about a third worth of extra juice here for Dick's Sporting Goods. Wow, that's a lot of juice as well. Again, it seems like a lot of these big box retailers are pricing in a little bit more juice. And if they weren't after last week, they certainly are. Nvidia, let's go to them really quickly. 25th after the bell, about 167 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $16.14, listeners. In the past, they've moved $7.30. Man, there's a lot of juice being priced in this cycle, listeners. Let's go out to Snowflake. They were hot before. Can they be hot again? Let's find out. 141.5 is where they were trading. They're 25th after the bell as well. They were pricing in 24.25. In the past, they moved $10.5. Now, take that latter number with a bit of a grain of salt because we don't have that much data on Snowflake. But still, again, wow, a lot of juice being priced in this cycle. Let's go out to Baba really quickly before we head out into the odd block. Baba, 26 before the bell, 86.75 is where they were trading. 6 1/3 is what they were pricing in. In the past, they've moved 285, so more than 2x more juice. So I think if you want to summarize this cycle in one word, it is more vol, more juice being priced in to all these big names out here. Wow. MRVL, they are $54. They're pricing in 5 1/4. In the past, they moved $3.5. More juice. Big Lots, they're on the 27th before the bell. 27.5 is where they were trading. In the past, they've moved $2. They're pricing in $2.65. So more juice again. My goodness. Let's see how the season is shaping up right now. Let's see, with 1,115 names reporting total so far, we are at about an 89%. So week 1, 65%, week 2, 75%. Those are the two kind of black marks on the season. The rest were all pretty robust. Week 3, 107%. Week 4, 89%. Week 5, hanging out at 95%. We'll see how the season winds down. They kind of run the earnings season for about 6 weeks, listeners. So we'll see how we wind it down here and see how the season actually comes in. Right now, this season at 89% is hanging out pretty much almost exactly at the moving average we've had for the last 3 years out there, which is 88% for the season. So that's interesting. Again, obviously that goes back to through the pandemic. So intriguing stuff afoot. Earnings trades really quickly here. It looks like they're adding some. Let's see. New trades are entering into Zoom, a short straddle, as well as a long calendar in Best Buy and another long calendar in ANF. So get in there, check those out. They're also monitoring hundreds of other trades. You can keep track of those over there. TheOptionsInsider.com. Now we've got to go, listeners. It is time to unleash the Eye of Sauron. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, we get whimsical. Looking at our chat here, looks like Limited saying there's some juicy puts in AMD, so maybe he trades AMD. Maybe he's the one. Yeah, if you guys trade AMD, hit us up. I'm curious. All these other names you talk about all the time, Ford, Facebook, whatever, it might be Tesla, obviously, all these names, they get Apple. You guys have a lot of comments and questions about those. AMD, not so much. So intriguing, yet it's putting up paper day after day here like a runaway freight train. So someone's trading it. If it's you, hit us up. Let us know. Tell us what you're up to out there. Let's get out to our first name out there. This is going back to the financials. Remember, we talked not too long ago, people were scooping puts in this name and also in Credit Suisse right during the early days of the invasion there in the Ukraine in February and early March. It seemed like people were spooked about some of these banks' European debt and credit exposure. Now we're going back to Deutsche Bank. Let's see what we found out there today. Deutsche Bank, ticker symbol DB, trading right now 10 3/4, up about 81 cents or a little over 8%. So nice little pop for them. A year ago, they were trading $15 exactly. They got to their high right before the invasion, listeners. Their high was $16.70. That was on February 10th. And we all know what happened later on in February. They took a beating down to $9.16. Then they rebounded for a while. So all those put buyers actually they went bust, which I think they were probably happy to do because they probably were long a ton of stock. The stock gapped up to 13.25 on March 29th, listener. So it had a nice little rebound. Hovered there for a little bit until early to mid-April. Then they kind of gave up the ghost again, back down to 9.44 on May 11th. Then they have rebounded since then to where they are right now, 10.71, including a nice nearly $1 pop today. So good news coming for Deutsche Bank today. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I see any news. Deutsche Bank's downgrading a bunch of names, but I don't see any specific news about Deutsche Bank themselves. But what we did find out here is looks like perhaps this is an interesting one. Perhaps someone is still a little bit concerned about the near-term downside here in Deutsche Bank, or perhaps they got a decent fill and they're drawing a line in the sand. Either way, we saw 15,000 of the June 10 puts, so they were in the money puts on Friday. Now they are out of the money puts, going up for 37 cents. The stock was a little bit lower. The stock was 10.48 when these went up earlier this morning. That's a 51 vol, if you're wondering. The reason why I say it's kind of uncertain, listeners, is because this market was atrocious. It was 20 cents at 50. So someone coming to you for 15,000, you give them that market. It's kind of a coin flip what they end up doing. They ended up putting up 15,000 of these puts for 37 cents. So pretty much exactly splitting the uprights there, which is always fun to see out there. So did they get a decent fill in terms of buying? I might be more inclined to think that. I don't think this market was real, 20 cents at 50. Clearly it wasn't. It traded 37 cents 15,000 times. So there was a tighter market to be found within there. And they found it to the tune of 37 cents. I don't think they found a 37-cent bid for these. I could be mistaken. This thing's rocking and rolling out here. So let's go out to the greasiest of Meatball. Mr. Meatball, this is the name we've talked about a lot here of late, Deutsche Bank. People usually on the put side, people seem like they're kind of spooked. That's another reason why I kind of lean towards them maybe buying these, because that's kind of the paper we've seen out there of late. But what is your take on this 15,000 lot of mid-market puts in Deutsche Bank, sir? What do you think they were up to?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of put buying in it. There's always people looking to go long puts because everybody feels like there's some sort of shoe to drop. But Deutsche Bank having a really strong day today. So, it could be somebody just baiting it. But, we'll see.
So you with me that they probably were buying these? Do you think they sold them and got a decent price for these?
My guess is they bought it. That's been what we've seen. That's my guess is they're still buying it. Maybe they're long the stock. I don't know, but yeah, I'm guessing these are a buy.
That's where I'm putting them down in my catalog as well. We'll come back to these and see if they actually bought them and what they did and how they performed. Do you think they bought them? Do you think they got a good fill? Again, we've seen a lot of people scrambling to buy puts in this name of late, so this would not be out of character for that where they come in and buy more. So intriguing stuff. Speaking of intriguing names we've talked about recently, this name also fits the bill. It's Canada Goose. It's back on our radar again. Ticker symbol Goose, Goos. Trading right around 1888 right now. An excellent year. Off a $1.43 or 7% today. Man, they came for the goose. Dare I say it? Is their goose cooked? How long have you been waiting to hear that pun? Wow, yeah, they came for this one today. Even though they had decent earnings. Yeah, I don't know what's dragging them down 7% today. So market rallying, they're off quite a bit. But let's see, on the year, a year ago, they're trading $39. They got up to their high for the year on November 15th or so close to the kind of apex for the market as well. They got up to 53.64 and pretty much gave it right back. By December, they were trading $37 again, and then they sold off down to 21 on March 14th. Then popped a bit, hung out in the mid to high 20s, actually 27 and change for a while there in March before giving it back up again to where they are right now, $18.88. As you'll recall, we talked about Canada Goose recently, including on our Odd Block show on May 9th, where we did 15,000 again of the May 16 puts going up. They were line in the sand put then. We just paid those off on the last option block episode. So listen to that episode if you haven't heard that. We also talked about that same person coming in and maybe going the other way and loading up on some 17 puts in July 10,000 times. Or maybe not the same person, but the same type of trade. So there has been a lot of put action going up in Canada Goose of late. And not to be outdone, someone's coming out here today and going a little bit closer to home. They're going out into the weeklies, the June expiring on the 10th, 15 puts This market was 15 at 30 cents. They came in and looks like they sold 14,168 of these for 17 cents. That's an 88 vol, if you're wondering. The stock was a little higher when they sold these. The stock was 19.14, so it's about a quarter or so, 30 cents higher than where it is right now. So obviously these puts are a little bit bid against them, not terrible. There are no earnings in this because these expire on June 10th, and the next earnings announcement is on August 10th. So we are back into it with Canada Goose list. I know some of our listeners were intrigued by these puts as well. I think you guys were trading these as well. You guys still in on Canada Goose? Hit us up. Let us know. Mr. Meatball, looks like we got yet another sizable line in the sand in Canada Goose, sir. What say you?
Yes. Who doesn't love Canada Goose Holdings? Having a rough day, down 7%. It's been a rough go for this one as of late. Just kind of ugliness. And yeah, those June 10 puts, if you're long Canada Goose, those should scare you because, man, that's definitely a line in the sand looking for some income. But, that is a scary level for people. The guy isn't willing to even go to 16 to get a little more juice, wants protection from another 20% downside, which I guess makes some sense with the stock down 7% today.
What do you think? You think the goose is cooked, sir?
The down feathers maybe from their own stock symbol.
Guessing not a lot of opportunities to wear Canada Goose down there in the Southern Volatility Mecca, sir.
No, we have not. I don't know that I wore my winter coat all year. I got to be honest.
That's a shame. Until you came to Chicago in May, then maybe you busted it up.
No,
actually, it was pretty nice.
Nice.
It was pretty nice when you were here. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the weather was actually pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, it was an all out. Chicago gave me exactly what I wanted. Beautiful weather, great food, adequate company, everything you could ask for.
What more could you possibly ask for, sir? All right, let's go out one more here, then we'll get to the Unk list of Mike's. Let's go back out. We don't talk about this name a lot because it's usually, if we talk about this sector, it's kind of its previously known as name of Altria. But now we're going out to Philip Morris International, ticker symbol PM. So this was kind of spun off of the big Altria. I believe this is all their international holdings out there. They have Marlboro and stuff that they sell overseas. So all the stuff they maybe didn't want to deal with here, they shuffled off into PM while they rebranded with the so strange sounding Altria. It does sound like a strange pharmaceutical name. But right now, Philip Morris International, 103 and 103.60 or so right now. Up about $2.50. So nice pop today, 2.5% for them. On the year, they were trading $98 a year ago. So it's kind of been a bit of a wasted year. They're up slightly. So I guess if you look at it from that perspective, they are outperforming the market. But not a great run. They sold off in November of last year. So when the rest of the equity market was hitting its high, they hit their low for the year, 85.64. That's interesting. And then they rocketed back up while the rest of the market was getting a little bit spooked by the upcoming invasion in February. They rocketed up to their high for the year, 112.5 on February 17th. So Philip Morris International, perhaps a little bit of a contrary indicator to what's going on in the broad equities. Then they promptly sold off like everybody else. So they are not immune. They got down to 92.66 on March 15th. Before popping pretty much again and getting back up to where they are right about now, 105 in April. Then they sold off again to about 99 in early May before rallying again to where they are right now, or where they were, I should say, 106.30 last week. They kind of gave some of that back, now back to 103.65. So it's kind of been a weird, turbulent year that has ended up amounting to a whole heck of a lot of nothing. They're up $5 on the year. So, yeah, weird year for Philip Morris International. This is, I do believe, a newcomer. I don't think we talked about them on the iBlock before. It seems like someone might think, though, that there is a lot more upside to come because they are swinging for the fences here going out to September. 10,000 of the SEP 115s going up. Right now, they're at about 103.66 right now, listeners, in the stock right now. They picked up the 115s. They paid $2 for these bad boys. That is a 23 vol, which not a heck of a lot, given the fact that they have had some movement out here over the course of the past year. And let's see, the stock was much higher when they put this. What is their day range? How high did they get to? They got up to 105.66. And this poor person bought these calls. The stock was 105. So, yeah, they're already kind of wearing it on these calls. That's unfortunate for them. They had bad timing there, but they were feeling it. They were seeing the market rally. They thought, here we go. Maybe it's time to BTFD in Philip Morris. And they loaded up on some calls, which can be considered, they're longer term. They're not in the money, so they don't qualify from stock replacement from that perspective, but they are quite the bullish play. Next earnings are on July 21st. Mr. Meatball, what do you think about some pretty optimistic call paper here in Philip Morris International, sir?
Well, consumer staples have definitely been one of the safety areas as of late. The stock is definitely moving higher today. It's had some nice range. Got absolutely smoked on Thursday. So along with the entire consumer cyclicals sector. So maybe someone just playing for a little rebound here and thinking that, today's move is going to get a little follow through.
We'll see. You like this upside here on Philip Morris International, a.k.a. PM. Hit us up. Let us know. Meanwhile, it's time for Uncle Mike to let us know what's on his mind. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, everybody. You've waited patiently. It is now time to unleash Uncle Mike for some options, wit, and or wisdom. Uncle Mike, what do you have in store for us today?
Trying to make it more wisdom today, but possibly a little bit of wit. We had a little bit more wit early on in the show with Ravishing Rick Rude, so we'll try and balance this out a little bit more in terms of having some wisdom. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is time frame selection when buying a put option. Now, what I want to go through today is just kind of the ways with which we look at things and why we look at them. And in the limited amount of time that we have, I want to keep this as simple as possible. And so what I want to go through with this is that if you are going to buy a longer term put, meaning 6 months to a year, long term equals long term. It's very difficult to trade those. It's very difficult to get in and out of them. Short term means you need to be more active. In my opinion, I think it's very difficult to stay in those. You need to take advantage of profits at an earlier time. So here's two scenarios of which we would use a longer term put and a shorter term put for buying them. Right now, we have what we refer to as our strategic night fund, meaning that it's an SMA, separately managed accounts, to where we have clients in groups of stocks. And we also have the hedged version of the strategic night, the hedged strategic night, HSKF, we call it. And so within the hedged strategic night, we are looking to hedge the market as a whole. We have a basket of stocks that we hold in it, but we are looking to hedge ourselves from a downturn in the S&P 500. And so we hedge in various ways. Different years we've done different things. And this year what we've gone with is a long-term vertical put spread. And we actually went out to December. Now, why did we do that? Well, because we're looking to hold the stocks for longer periods of time. We're not looking to get in, get out. And we don't want to be doing short-term trading with puts. And so what we've decided is that at the end of the year, if the market is down X percent, we're only going to be down this percent. Now, the advantage of that is that from a time decay standpoint, we're not going to be buying puts month after month after month after month, whether we're wrong, right, whatever. We can actually have a more efficient hedge. But the downside to this, or the bad part, so to speak, is that right now in client portfolios, they're looking at them and the hedge is not doing as great of a job right now because of the fact that there is still a lot of time value in the short side of the put spread. And also, there's not a lot of gamma within the long side of the put spread. So the point is that if you're looking to hedge yourself longer term, then understand in the short term, it's not going to help you that much. And our clients are aware of that. We explain that. And hopefully they understand it well, in that if the market were to stay the same from right here and we keep the hedge in the same spot with which it is, then the hedge is going to increase significantly in value over the course of the next 6-7 months. However, if the market just rallies back, then this hedge doesn't help us any because it's going to be useless, which ultimately for the hedge strategic night That's what we hope happens because the market rallies so much. Now, let's say you're going to be short term and you're going to be buying puts maybe 1 to 2 months out. Well, if you're doing that, as soon as you have a certain profit target, whether it's 20%, 50%, 100%, whatever the case may be, and I'm talking on the put itself, you really should consider taking action. And the reason is that time decay will bite you on the butt very quickly if you do not. It happens a lot quicker than you think. And so if you are looking to be more active, if you're like, well, you know what, I'm concerned with the market going down the next couple of weeks because of this, that, or the other. If the market goes down in the first day of that time frame and you've maybe said, okay, well, if it goes to this level at that point, I think I want to take profits on it. You better take profits. I would recommend you definitely take profits at that point on the put or on the hedge, whatever way you're looking at this, because of the fact that time decay is going to work against you very quickly, and you need to be more active with it. With this, there's going to be a YouTube video out on long-term versus short-term put buying, advantages and disadvantages to each of them. So tune into my YouTube channel for a more detailed analysis. Just type in St. Charles Wealth Management and it'll take you to my channel.
There you go. Meanwhile, we got to take you into our final segment. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until we can gather here together for this program again on Thursday. A lot of living to do between now and Thursday, but this show back for episode 2 on Thursday. In the meantime, we asked you at the top of the show, what is that level? What is that level that VIX has to hit to signal concession in the broad market? And right now, it's still north of 40, 34.8% is our number one choice, which is surprisingly low, I have to admit. North of 50, 30.4% for number 2. No love for north of 60, only 8.7%. And then the rest of you are north of 70, 26.1%. Wanted to get it up to 80, but, you know, starting it at north of 50 seemed a little bit out there. So we started it north of 40. And clearly a lot of you agree at that 40 level. So there you go. What's your pick? At Options is the place to go to make your voice heard. You got the rest of the week to get in there and make your voice heard on this. We'll break down the results on our Friday Ball View show. Mr. Meatball, A, are you surprised by those results? 34.8% saying north of 40. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's higher? And then B, what are you watching until we come back together on Thursday?
I mean, in this market, that might do it. I think it really depends. I feel like if we hit 40, we could keep going. But right now, what I will say is that we break 40. That is at a minimum the beginning of us heading into capitulation. So I will agree with a caveat. How about that?
Your buddy there on the stage on Ball Views, he wanted 80. He wants a VIX of 80.
Yeah, CJ. Yeah, no, he's really looking for blood, and we might get it. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely could happen. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's wrong. So
VIX between 40 and 80. What else are you keeping an eye on until our next episode, sir?
Yes, anywhere in that range, and I think we are in a spot to worry.
All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. Do you have any thoughts on our question of the week? And then what are you keeping an eye on until we gather here together on Thursday, sir?
I can see 40. That wouldn't surprise me. And then in terms of what I'm keeping an eye on until Thursday, we got a lot going on this week. Like Mark had mentioned, Zoom earnings. We have that. We have several Fed officials speaking in various spots throughout the week, and I think the market's eyes are going to be glued to that one to see what they say. Could they hint at anything? Who knows? And those could definitely be market movers, and I'm keeping an eye on those things. So that, along with seeing if we can continue up through the 4,000 mark to see where we can go.
We got to get on out of here. Listeners, like our poll has just changed. Now it's a tie between VIX north of 40 and VIX north of 50. So where do you fall, listeners? You have a great place to express that opinion. At Options on Twitter is the place to go. And let's go around the horn one last time. Let's start with the greasiest of Meatball. Mr. Meatball, you're back. You're in Austin. Your big event is behind you. But if folks are intrigued, they want to reach out, see what's cooking in the land of the pit, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, I'm writing my blog every day. Go to optionpit.com and make sure you read what we've got going on and everything going on in VIX and SPX and how that can affect your trading.
Optionpit.com is the place to go. And again, if you want to see myself and the Greasers and Meatballs and the Rock Lobster on stage together, we'll see if we can you can hear it now on our network on Volatility Views. If you want to see it, then maybe we'll see if we can get the video up for you on the old YouTubes so you can see for yourself. Unfortunately, the Uncleist of Mike's was not there with us on the stage on Friday. I think I invoked you one time on the stage, Uncle Mike, so you were there in spirit. And if folks want to reach out to you themselves, where should they go? What should they do?
I'm always there in spirit, that's for sure. If you'd like to work with a financial advisor that delves in the option product, if it's appropriate for the clients, check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. Reach out to me and we can have a conversation. Would love to talk with you.
stcharleswealth.com is the place to go. And if you're listening live, part of our pro crew, then you'll be getting Crypto Rundown coming up in a little bit with our old friend, Mr. Bill himself. I see a lot of you talking about altcoin there in our live chat. He always comes. I think he mentioned he has some interesting altcoin he wants to talk about a little bit. He always comes with some cool tickers that maybe you haven't heard of that he's keeping an eye on out there. So we'll get to all that in a little bit on the Crypto Rundown. Everybody on the on-demand side, you have to wait until that hits the network there. Then you can enjoy it on your device of choice. Again, we got an action-packed week here for the rest of the week, listeners. We've got, of course, tomorrow our pro Q&A coming up, Mr. Simon Ho. And then on Wednesday, we've got the advisor's option coming up. 12:30, got myself, the Oracle of New Hampshire, as well as Mr. John Cherry from Northern Trust back on that show. 2 o'clock, if you want another double dose of options boot camp in your life, you're getting it. 2 o'clock on Wednesday. And then if you said that's not enough, I need another double dose of OPR in my life, you're getting it immediately after that on Wednesday. Man, my voice is going to be dead on Wednesday. But hey, we love you folks out there. Then we're back again on Thursday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.